Vodkast.
Hey, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome to another Vodkast. If you want to ask questions, which is what this thing is all about, drinking and answering questions, you can do so at vodkastpodcaster@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Jeff Manch. Leave a comment in the description of one of the videos that I make or have made, and I will find it and then answer it, or do my best to answer it here on the Vodkast. So thanks to everyone that actually submitted a question. There's 4, so this should go pretty quick. And always remember, you got to subscribe to the channel. I know a lot of you are unsubscribed. Actually, this video is, I think, among the highest or most popular on the subscribers side. But if you're not subscribed and you've been watching for like 5 years, just do it. Subscribe. I'm posting more videos more regularly, so just freaking do it. All right, let's get into the very first question. It comes to us from Kevin. How did working in pro audio isotope affect your music from a composition creative standpoint? Do you think the engineering experience made you a better composer? Just curious about the relationship between these two areas for you and how it might have changed. Thank you. Smiley face. Kevin at Springborn is his Twitter handle. So this question is really interesting because it actually feeds into one of the reasons I joined audio engineering school in the first place. So rewind back to when I was, well, 5 years ago, 30-ish, and I left academia. I was going to do a PhD program, which I was in. I withdrew after 2 weeks because I was always interested in music composition and composing, but I knew that I wanted to find out how to make my stuff sound better because everyone had sample libraries and could compose, but what I realized was not everyone knew how to mix or master or repair. And I also didn't really know a lot about setting up microphones and recording myself. So I thought, if I have this background, this foundational audio signal processing, recording kind of, chops, I would stand out. And I would do a better job at, getting the attention of people who, I wanted to hire me for composing. So I did a 1-year audio engineering program. So I kind of got what I needed to start and run from there from that program. Now, working at Isotope, I have to say my mixing and mastering skills have only gone up exponentially because part of what I do for Isotope did a lot, and still do now, but did a lot of when I first started, was tutorials on mixing and mastering and repair. I learned a lot just by doing the work, which I think is the only way anyone watching this will ever learn how to do anything, is by doing it. Not just kind of checking the box that you watched, like a tutorial or a course or something. By actually composing, repairing, mastering, by doing the work, you will learn how to do it. So it was the ultimate way to level up because I had to make videos constantly on how to use this product or how to mix or how to repair for the company's official YouTube channel. I still do it. I still freaking love it. So by learning how to use the tools that Isotope makes, and also building the channel and doing videos about other people's plugins and mixing, mastering, repair plugins and stuff like that, I did find that those things that I was learning to be good at my job and not get fired helped make my own compositions significantly better. And also because I was trying to prove myself at Isotope and make videos on mixing and mastering and stuff, I was watching a lot of other people do the work, not in person, but online. So I got a Pure Mix subscription. I got a Mix with a Master subscription. I got easier access to Groove 3 and Ask Video, and I was just like a rocket ship taking off, just sucking everything up into the engines. That's definitely how rockets work. And I was just learning everything, absorbing everything, so that when I made a video, I didn't have someone point out, well, actually, that's not what you do, or you don't do it that, or did you know there's an easier way? Because I knew I had the informational and kind of media awareness of everything else that was being produced. And I could, make my videos with the confidence that they were kind of future-proofed and cutting edge. And absolutely stuff was able to get brought back into my composing for the people, the clients that I was working for. I'd say as far as like the tracking side of things, I learned a lot of that in audio engineering school. So sticking a microphone in front of a live instrument, or, you know, gain staging or appropriate levels, and, you know, mic technique, all that stuff. If you want to record someone in real life, I didn't learn any more than I already knew at Isotope. A lot of that came from audio engineering school and just going out and doing the work, which I do a lot less of now, but I have enough awareness and kind of understanding of how to do it to get a good result here in the room that I'm in, but and in the rooms prior. But I would say, you know, it only helped, but my foundation came from audio engineering school, which I'm hesitant to encourage anyone into now, frankly. My experience where I went was awesome, but it had a lot of downsides. Like, you know, a lot of the equipment was busted. I got migraines looking at the monitor, which was always on the fritz, like the projector was always on the fritz. It was just a really kind of unloved school as far as like the kind of, you know, the architecture and the infrastructure. It was not a Berkeley college, you know, it was not like this top level. The saving grace for that school, and this is getting a little off course with your question, is the people, the instructors. And by the way, if you're considering doing this, going to audio engineering school, anyone listening, go to where you will learn the most. Go to where you think you will learn the most from the people around you. It's not about the, you know, as much as I was kind of crapping on the desks and the mice, which didn't have like right click and left click, it was ridiculous. It's not about that. It's about the educators and instructors. Look them all up. Look to see what credits they have. Look to see what they've done. Don't judge them if they haven't worked on like a Pixar movie or something like that, but just think about that, because that's what your understanding and foundation in knowledge is that's where it's gonna come from. It's not gonna come from like, oh, they have like a Neve console and they have like a huge SSL, and every now and then like a pro mixer comes in. Look at the people you're going to be learning from every single day. That's really truly what matters. Ignore the flash, the hype, how good the website is, and go where you think you're going to learn a lot from the people that are there. But it's tricky because a lot of these schools have a lot of like high turnover. So a lot of the instructors are like, see ya after a couple of months. So that happened. But anyway, I digress. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to take a sip of non-alcoholic water and get to the next one. Okay, Amadeus asked, do you think that music becomes more generalized and there is a certain sound that many composers use because many composers use the same tools? Your question got cut off by my screenshot, sorry. So I think I've captured the essence of it. Does music become more generalized because everyone's using the same sample libraries and tools? So this is a huge issue. But there's some good news. So when I say this is a huge issue, I would say that yes, this happens. Like when I think of a library like Damage or something like that, yeah, I can hear Damage. I think we all could hear Damage from Heaviosity in every movie trailer, in everything all over the place. Like it was everywhere. And I think the same is true of certain libraries from Spitfire, or, you know, the big heavy hitters, maybe Orchestral Tools, whatever. That stuff tends to kind of spread like wildfire, especially for TV shows now, which have smaller budgets. So they hire people like me or people like, you know, whatever, and not a big composer who has at his or her disposal 1,000, you know, live players, and they can, you know, they're using sample libraries. So it does, I think, happen a lot. I think the good news though is that the only people that really notice that there's a homogenized sound and stuff like that are like, that's from that library or whatever. It's just us, it's composers. We're the ones that can hear those sample libraries being used or being underutilized, because some people just use one patch and, you know, go to lunch. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, make your money, do your thing. But I think that we have to be aware too that from where we're sitting, it's like right up here. We can, you know, we hear everything, we see everything, we download all the stuff, we watch the videos, we know the sound of, you know, and I think that insofar as like, you know, how much does it like grind your gears? I think, you know, it's really only us that kind of notice this stuff. Now, does it lead to a homogenized sound? Does music or sound change? I mean, I don't know if there's any way to really quantify that. I don't know if there's a way for me to be like, yes, I have watched 10 movies and I'm able to, like, I don't know how much that's happening. I'm sure it is happening a little bit. I mean, after all, like I said, budgets are coming down. It's harder to get everyone, especially with the pandemic, on a soundstage and record. So we're relying more on these sample libraries, which are copy and paste. You get a license, you get a serial, you get it, and everyone can use it. And so there might be some, some kind of uniformity or generalization, like you said, in sound. That definitely happens. But I think that, great composers work in a hybrid kind of way where a little bit of it is sample libraries, a little bit is live instrumentation, and a little bit of it is sound design. More and more, I think, when we think about the way that the roles of the music industry are becoming more like you have to know how to do everything, composers now have to know how to do sound design. And so when you mix in a sample library with real acoustic instruments and sound design, you do get something kind of like different. If you're only using sample libraries, and everyone's only using sample libraries, then I can see things kind of bleeding together a little bit. But there's a lot of people who can use sample libraries in a totally amazing, unique way and come up with something that doesn't sound like what everyone else is doing. I don't know if anyone really has the time to break a library to do that, but from where I'm sitting, every time I worry like, oh, does this sound like someone else? Does this sound like someone else? Does this sound like everyone else? It's tough, dude. We get directors asking us all the time to sound like someone else. They're saying, can you make this sound like this? And I'm going, well, what you want me to, the reference here is like a bunch of pro players in a room in London, and I'm, on my Mac Pro with a sample library. I'll try to, so if anything, directors and producers are exacerbating this problem if you think it's a problem, because we're told to sound like so-and-so, sound like this person, sound like that person. So it does all feed into itself. But I think that, as a composer, you have a responsibility to honor the material, to honor the director and the work, and to provide a service. We're in the service industry. Can you make a this? And then you make the that and you give it away. And then they, go off and someone says, hey, can you make me that thing that was like that thing you made that guy? And it just goes on and on. I'm really not worried about my own kind of artistic integrity and like, I don't want to do another string, a quartet. I don't want to do another hybrid thing. I don't care. I like doing everything. So it doesn't really matter to me that I have this kind of evolution in my sound and it changes and people come after me because they want my Jeff Man. I don't care. I just want to make people happy. I just want to make stuff that makes them go, wow, my short film, which I shot for like $20,000 feels like $1 million now that there's a score in it that sounds incredible. And if there's some other composer that's like, oh, I can tell they use this and this and that, like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm too old to care about that stuff. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. One more thing I want to say about this is that, like, we have to be real about what we have to work with as composers. I know I rag on Spitfire a lot, but Christian Hetson said something like 2 years ago, which always stayed with me, and it blew my mind as someone who makes sample libraries. He said he thinks of sample libraries like coffee, where it's 90% coffee and maybe 10% cream. And if I'm quoting him correctly here, and I'm probably not, but let's give it a shot. He's not watching. No one's watching. He said 90% the coffee should be organic live instruments, and 10% should be sample libraries and virtual instruments and stuff. That blew my mind because I think he knows that not everyone can afford 90% coffee. They can't afford like real instruments. Like they can't just walk into Air Studio, snap their fingers and get a bunch of people playing, real stuff. He knows that a lot of people aren't just drafting and doing their little mock-ups with Spit. They're doing the whole friggin' cup of coffee with all virtual instruments, So this is happening. So let's be real. We don't have the luxury of hiring a bunch of out of the box pro players that we have to work with sample libraries in our studios, you know what I mean? And try to meet someone's sound that's in their head that they heard on a big Hollywood film. We got to meet them where they are with our little, micro budget setup. So there's that. That's the rest of my answer. Maybe I'll cut it out. I don't know. I don't want to be mean, but I just think about these things sometimes. So there's my answer. Amadeus. Okay. Another question comes to us from Jacob Stevens. He says, sometimes I don't feel like being in front of the computer. Do you ever work on composition ideas away from the computer? And if so, what instruments or gear do you use? So, this is a really cool question. I think I've gotten this one before, and my answer used to be, I work on my guitar. I listened to someone in the past who talked about getting away, and, you know, going to the coffee shop with your MIDI keyboard, which just makes me cringe. I will never do that. Or just going somewhere and, you know, whatever. For me, I used to do that with my guitar because I play guitar better than I'll ever play keyboards. I found that I just couldn't get the kind of sounds that I needed to get out of my guitar that would then help me kind of go over to my keyboard and play them. And with the pandemic, you know, being confined was the norm. And so I really got used to being in front of a computer. I know that for some people, the computer is one of the worst places to work. And I think for some people that's true. It sounds like it might be true for you, Jacob. But for me, I spend so much time in front of a computer to communicate, to follow up on work, to consume content, consume media, that I don't think of the computer as a dirty place anymore. It's not a place that is uncreative. I understand that there's still an overwhelming amount of choice and directions we can go in with a computer, and with a guitar, a little instrument away from a screen, we're confined a bit more, which might lead to more interesting ideas. But for me, I've become indoctrinated to viewing the computer and a computer room as a place of creativity, and it's not a source of frustration or anti-creativity for me as it kind of used to be. And the pandemic, you know, I got glued to my computer and it became the norm. So there might come a time when I might shift away and then go to a park and just compose. But even then, I don't know if that's, I don't know. I don't see it changing. But I think that if your body is telling you that, like, I don't like being here, I'm not creative, I can't get work done, I can't finish an idea, and you happen to be lucky enough to play another instrument, then go to another place with that instrument and do it. Like Machina now has like zero computer connectivity. Everything's on the screen. It wouldn't surprise me if Native also updated the keyboards to be standalone, like don't have to connect them to a computer and you can just go. They'd have to run off something. You'd need a power source, I guess, still. I'm trying to figure out how that would work. Anyway, so there might be an opportunity in the future to take your kind of MIDI keyboard with you, but if you play guitar or something, like go play guitar. That was my thing, and that's what I used to do. So hopefully that helps. Okay, the next question. Would you ever, Amadeus asks again, would you ever consider making your own sample library? I have considered it. I don't know. I think the best sample libraries, the best ideas, the best plugins come from a place of, I'm a composer, I'm a creator, I'm a whatever, and there's something I need that's not in the market. And I'm going to make it because I know that I'm not the only person that has this problem. Someone else has this problem. I'm going to make it. That's kind of where I'm coming from. There's nothing out there that I feel like I don't see in the market. I'm going to make it. Or this tool is cool, but if it just had this extra thing, I'm going to make that extra thing. I'm also not that creative when it comes to like thinking of new ideas and things that would really sell and stuff like that. I prefer to consume than to create. So that's kind of my answer. There's one time when what I really wanted was a classical kind of flamenco guitar, you know, vinyl strings or whatever, played almost like, if you listen to Leonard Cohen, he plays with this like style that's like doodle 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 doodle, and I couldn't find any like native instrument, and there was no finger picking style patch, and I really, really wanted that for a trailer that I was composing. And eventually I just gave up and I just found another way to get around it. But that was one thing where like that articulation of that really quick Spanish finger picking style, I was hearing it in like Ozark and everywhere, and I was just like, oh man, I would love that. And it just didn't exist. And I was like, maybe I'll think about doing it. But then of course, like life moved on and I didn't. But no, I don't think sample library creation is for me. There are people that have approached me about it, and I say the same thing, which is like too busy, not interested. But who knows? Maybe I'll find a need for a sound and I'll know how to get it here and make a sample library out of it. I don't know. We'll see. But nah, not really interested. All right. The last question comes from Joe Towers, who writes, I know you compare yourself to someone like Daniel James when it comes to broadcasting how he approaches a library demo. Also, you've mentioned more than once that you are not good, that you are not that good playing. That you are not that good playing. Okay. However, I'd be very interested in your approach to a composition because in the end, you've still made it as a composer. Well, it's debatable. I've heard some of your pieces and you've accomplished having a sound or aesthetic, I think. That's very nice of you, Mr. Towers. Whenever I sit down with the honest purpose of trying to come up with something, I'm blocked. I can't seem to get past the usual block chords and generic melody. Yeah, interesting. So, Joe, what you're saying is like watching me might have helped you unblock yourself, and watching me and not seeing me there kind of makes you feel like, you know, something's, you know, a person like you that suffers and struggles, like, you know, whatever is, you know, you're not really seeing that. And by seeing more of that, it could maybe spark some ideas and stuff like that. Like I have flirted with the idea of composing in real time, but honestly, I'm a really sensitive person. I just am. And I'm really affected by criticism. I remember doing one video a little while ago. I got the notes wrong, and I was trying to show like, oh, go do this, and I forgot what video it was for. And a lot of people called me out in the comments in a night, even in like a very like, hey Jeff, I think you got this wrong or whatever. But I was like thinking about it for weeks, very affected by this. I'm just going to be real. I'm a very fragile, sensitive person. My ego, you know, is about like wafer thin, you know. So I don't know if I want to open myself up and compose live. You know, I don't know if I want to do that. Even if it would help a lot of people, it still feels to me like if I did something wrong, if I made a mistake, if you saw how long it takes me to come up with something half decent, you know, I don't know. So I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of criticism. I prefer to go away and then come out and emerge with something really cool and show you. And I just don't, I don't know if I'm ready to do the whole shebang just yet with live broadcasting of my composing. I'm sorry you're blocked, dude. I did a couple of videos a very long time ago about tips to kind of stay engaged, and maybe I'll link it in the, you know, in the cards or whatever. But it's a challenge. It affects a lot of people, and it still happens to me. So I totally get it. But right now, I don't think I'm in a place where I'm going to be doing any like live composing stuff. I just don't see it right now. So anyway, sorry to disappoint. No sample libraries, no live composing for now, but thank you so much for watching. As always, vodkastpodcaster@gmail.com. Leave me a comment in this video or whatever, future videos, Twitter, you know where to find me. Thanks for watching. Take care.